The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the show. This is All You Can Eat. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal. Excited to be with you here live. Coming to you from New York City, New York, where the current temperature is 80 degrees. And for those of you listening in a foreign country, we're talking about 26, 27 degrees on the centigrade scale. Man, a beautiful and stunning day here in New York. Anyway, this is podcast number 20 of All You Can Eat. We talk about deliciousness. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal. As I think I've mentioned, today is July the 18th, and it's really all about food. Today, I have recipes, I have stories, I have reports. There's a guy in New York on the local news channel. His name is Pat Kiernan. Pat Kiernan is an interesting guy. People love the guy, and I understand why. He's Canadian. Very likable, dry sense of humor, but he does a thing on his show. I think it's New York One, where he reads from the local papers every day: Daily News, New York Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, whatever. And then he does kind of a running commentary on it, which is great. Anyway. Consider this, I suppose, tonight's number 20, a kind of a rip off of that idea. In that, I have in front of me, 15, 20 stories that are reported in various press publications, both online and in the real world. And I'd like to read some of them to you, comment on some of them to you. We're going to be talking tonight about everything from kind of like breakfast smoothies to mezcal, cocktails. I got potato salad on the menu tonight, so to speak. Lamb, barbecued, grilled lamb. I got something about Chinese-style barbecued ribs. Beautiful food, that is. I got some scallops here. I've got some zucchini flour, which I want to talk to you about. What else? There's just so much. There's a thing I have here on avocado. There's something else on salsa, scallops. Anyway, kind of a whole bunch to get through, slowly but surely. And it's one of those nights whereby I want you to feel free to call in if you feel like chatting, if you feel like commenting, if you feel like questioning. I am happy to take your call. Sometimes that works. Oh, the telephone number for that 800-508 is 5431. You with me on this? 800. You can remember that. So here's the answer, 508-5431. Hello to my friends up in the Boston area where they listen live on the radio, and then everywhere else on the interwebs. Tonight we're live, and of course tomorrow this show will be archived and available for those who are not listening live on everything from SoundCloud and Spreaker and YouTube to, of course, the iHeartRadio network. Woo! Love that. 19 shows I've done. I like to have, with me on the podcast. Maybe sometimes, a sip of rosé, for example, because it's summer and it's rosé season, and whatever. But tonight I've actually begun the festivities with some more kind of adulty type beverages that you would call a martini. Now that's fine. I can't. I'm not using it for any other reason. Just letting you know that I've already started the party. 8:00. Really, it's a couple hours into happy hour. So, like a good martini. Anyway, reminds me, by the way, that I'm going to transition over to the rosé, and yet there was an article today that I want to go through also about how rosé has become essentially an embarrassing joke. Let me see what that article is called. That article here is today's New York Post, for what that's worth. How rosé became the most obnoxious drink in America. I don't want to start there. I don't believe it. I don't want to start there. However, because we're talking about cocktails to begin with, New York Times last week wrote an article, whatever the cocktail, they're ordering it with mezcal. Bartenders say customers are clamoring for classic drinks, but want them made with the smoky Mexican spirit. So let me say, and I feel like perhaps I've said it before, mezcal is good and wonderful and delicious. For those of us who like kind of the big flavor, mezcal comes from the very same place that tequila does, and by which I mean the agave. You'd find out in the desert, the root of the agave. Fundamental difference between the production of tequila and the mezcal is that the mezcal process, which I learned about once accidentally, but it was fascinating, and it goes back. Mexican food culture is highly sophisticated. They've been doing this thing for thousands and thousands of years. I don't mean just mezcal, I mean Mexican cooking in general, but I learned about mezcal from a master once, and I could not be more impressed. At the time, I thought to myself, this may be the most sophisticated spirit that I've heard about, because most spirits are made, in much the same way. There's a whole process, which I won't get into here. The fundamental difference, though, in this case, is that they take the root of the mezcal there. They dig a big old hole underground in which they ignite it and they roast it underground, and that's where it both caramelizes and takes on that fabulous smoky flavor. It's awesome. And then they begin the whole distillation and the process and the mash and whatever. I think people who there was a time, 20 or 30 years ago, that mezcal was associated with the worm in the bottle, and it's not like that. It's not like that now. It's not like that anymore. I find mezcal to be highly, highly sophisticated, as I've said. The bigger, I think, rounder, more intense flavor than tequila. I love it. There's a couple of brands in general, by the way. I mean, you have to kind of go explore on your own, and you can, because it's become, so popular that it's an article in the New York Times, for God's sake. I happen to be a fan of, let me just see the name of the one I like. This is the guy that taught me all about it. Monte Lobos mezcal. And that's some good stuff right there. I also like a brand called Vida, V-I-D-A, comes in a green bottle. And lately I've been having what they call mezcal joven, a Joven, which means young in Spanish. There's something, I can't tell you which brand, I don't recall. But mezcal is worth a try. And I will say, even before I tell you what they're writing in the New York Times, I will tell you that in making margaritas, for example, over the summer, you need virtually, three ingredients, basically. The margarita is tequila. Generally, it's made with a silver, 100% agave, silver. Then you're going to want a fresh lime juice. And it really does make a difference to be using fresh squeezed lime juice. If you're making a real cocktail, anybody will tell you. Bottled, not so good. Fresh, really good. And the other component, the third component in that cocktail, and cocktails are really all about proportion and balance. The third component in there is the sweet component to offset the lime. And some people will tell you that you're going to use an orange liqueur, right, like a Cointreau as an example, oftentimes in equal proportion to the lime, but that you can mix around with. You could substitute in for the Cointreau, frankly, if you don't have that, a simple syrup, which is the combination of sugar and water that you've boiled, that it's uniform and syrupy. And I'm telling you that you could substitute in for the tequila, the mezcal, and have basically, kind of what I would call like a smoky mezcal margarita. Sometimes I just do a half and half. In other words, I'll use the tequila in the cocktail, fresh squeezed lime juice, Cointreau, or simple syrup, and then hit it up with a shot of mezcal, and you have kind of like a smoky margarita. Damn. Beautiful. Here's what it says in the New York Times. Bartenders are happy to report that Americans are ordering the classic cocktails, which are the same Manhattan, old-fashioned daiquiris, and so forth. They're a little more conflicted, though, about how those drinks are being ordered with mezcal. It used to be, can you use vodka instead, said Todd Thrasher, bar owner in D.C., recalling customers who asked that a particular cocktail be made with vodka rather than the spirit traditionally used. Now the all-around substitute is tequila, smoky cussin. People are going absolutely crazy about mezcal. Any cocktail that hits on a list with mezcal in it seems to sell with great vigor. He said that. There's also a big calling for people mixing up classics. So, people are calling for mezcal Negronis, using it instead of gin, mezcal old fashions, where they're using mezcal in place of bourbon or rye, or mezcal last words, which is a gin drink. So, mezcal, fantastic, delicious, wonderful, and that's the story on mezcal tonight. I will switch over to the story that I mentioned before, as long as we're on kind of the alcoholic beverage portion of the show. And it was a couple of episodes ago, somewhere in the episode 15 or 16 zone, as we entered into the summer, that I had the good fortune to interview one of the editors of Wine Spectator here on the podcast. We spoke about a lot of things, but primarily about rosé, since he had written the, I have to make that noise go away, I'm sorry. It would not be a podcast for me unless there was some technical glitch. I don't know if that's a glitch, but the phone is ringing. Anyway, I interviewed a guy about the editor of Wine Spectator about rosé, and when you're in the summer, I actually tell people right now, there are certain parts of the world, and I'm thinking about the Hamptons here on the east coast of the United States, out on the east end of Long Island, where if you have a party without rosé, you're literally subject to arrest. That's how popular it is out in the Hamptons. But anyway, of course, with every trend comes an equal and opposite trend. And so here's an article today, July 17th. That is today, right? Let me just check the date here. Oh, sorry, yesterday's article. How rosé became the most obnoxious drink in America. When I first saw that, I thought, all right, somebody is just trying to be kind of confrontational here. And some wines beg to be sipped by the fireplace. Others are best poured alongside a succulent white fish or a juicy red steak. But rosé, as the trending hashtags profess, the pink drink made with less grape skin contact than red wines, is for all day. Millennials are guzzling it by the caseload, lured by its photogenic hue and the breezy poolside lifestyle it promises. Nothing sums up that obsession better than Midtown's new Rosé Mansion. Summer long pop-up that celebrates the pour in all its grammable beauty. In its 14 rooms, visitors can learn about the history of rosé, its many different varietals, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so anyway, the author here, in this case, Lauren Stuzzi, love your t-shirts, Lauren, is making fun of the fact that people are just basically going bananas about rosé, blah, blah, blah. And let's see what else she says. While the wine is cheap, the culture isn't. Patrons of June's third annual Pink Nick Rosé Festival on Governor's Island paid $115, which didn't even include the wine, for the honor of sweating amid sculptural pink backdrops. But attendees of the event say it was worth it for all the vibes. Pink is an attitude, said Diana Castrati, a 21-year-old Bensonhurst resident and recent college grad, tells the Post. Castrati, that's a rough name. Thank goodness it's on a girl. Because when they castrati the boys, woo, not so good, unless you want to be in the chorus. It's pretty like me, adds Sherrod Lewis, who lives in Bed-Stuy and is a publicist. So out of control is the pink marketing shtick that some fans of the blush stuff fear the party may soon be over. The answer is not quite. I'm a big believer that with every trend comes an equal and opposite trend. You're beginning to see that here, which is the anti-rosé movement, but I'm sorry. The truth of the matter is there's nothing wrong with rosé. For years it's been kind of the black sheep, if you will. I suppose the pink sheep. People generally drink red and white. Red and whites are considered to be kind of like the quality wines. When you look at the top 100 wines listed on the Wine Spectator Top 100, you may not even find one rosé, or if you do, you'll find one. So what happened, though, was that some years ago, I think the producers decided that they might be able to invest a little time and energy and effort into making quality rosés, and they did. So at this point, you can actually go out there and drink a really good rosé. And I'm a fan. In fact, we just have a sip of this one right here. Yeah, honestly, not only have no problem with it, like it very much, and it's great in the summer, straight up, nice and cold with all the different summer foods, goes well with food. I've made frosé, all right, I admit, that was a little hateful of me, but I like it. You know why I made it? In fact, this is a great thing. I opened maybe one bottle too much of the rosé for company. And at the end of the night, I said, I'm not positive that I'm going to be drinking that tomorrow. I say that now because wine is good basically for the day that you open it and maybe the day after. After that, to me, it's worthless. So I have a bottle of rosé open. Not sure I'm going to drink it on the following day. You know what I did? I put it in the not the bottle. I dumped the bottle into a glass, what do you call those things, Pyrex, and threw it in the freezer. And that's how you save rosé, my friends. And then what happens is next time you're ready to construct a drink, you make a frosé. So the base of the drink becomes that, the frozen rosé. How good is that? How do you make a frozen rosé? Generally, you're going to make a simple syrup. Again, the combination of sugar and water that you boil. So it's all uniform. You throw some strawberries in there. So you're making a strawberry simple syrup. And you blend all that shiz together in the blender. And next thing you know, you got a frosé. When I make it, I'll be the first to admit, I might drop in a little shot of vodka or two just to kind of wake the drink up. And take some of the pain off the evening. Anyway, frosé. Yes, so I like it, happy with it, and so I'm going to say no. Rosé is not dead. It's not obnoxious. Just don't be obnoxious about it. You know what? Rosé is not obnoxious. People are obnoxious. That's been well proven. I would like to now segue over to breakfast. I say breakfast because let's start there. And I have a couple of things here that are breakfast related. One is an article from I have no idea, and it's irrelevant, but it was somebody, I think, pitching me a story about a spa in Rancho Santa Fe, California. It's called the Rancho Valencia Resort and Spa, Relay and Chateau property, which means it's good. It's in SoCal, luxury destination, etc., etc. Anyway, I don't care so much about that. I was intrigued with the recipes that they provided for making smoothies, and I'll tell you why. Because I got a lot of blend. I have all the blenders in the world. I like a smoothie. I just hardly ever make them. And then anytime I make them, I kind of forget. You know, you kind of forget, kind of like, what are your favorite ingredients? Anyway, these look really interesting to me. By the way, 800-508-5431 is the number if you want to talk about, so far, rosé, mezcal, breakfast smoothies, and we have not even gotten to the lamb, to the scallops, to the Chinese-style barbecue ribs, to the best potato salad, and that kind of thing. 800-508-5431. Recipes in a blender. I think we all have a blender. I am only reading you these recipes because I thought, you know what, they sound pretty good. The Warrior, 1 whole banana, 6 chunks of pineapple, 1 handful of kale, I guess that's obligatory, 2 ounces of fresh cherries. By the way, now's the time to get cherries. Make sure they're hard and dark. I don't care if they're red or they're golden. They're good when they come from out west, by which I mean Washington, Oregon. I've had some awesome cherries. Sure, I get mine at Costco. You can get them anywhere. If you want to pay more, it's fine. So a whole banana, 6 chunks of pineapple, a handful of kale, 2 ounces of fresh cherries, walnuts, raspberry, a cup of ice, a tablespoon of honey, and 4 to 8 ounces of coconut water. And I got to be honest with you, healthy or not, that smoothie sounds good to me, doesn't it? Banana, pineapple, kale, cherries, walnuts, raspberry, ice, honey, and coconut water. I like it. Here's one called the Yogi Strawberries. A half an avocado, 2 cardamom pods. Oh, now you're getting complicated. 6 Turkish apricots, 2 sprigs of mint, ice, tablespoon, honey, 4 ounces, coconut water. That's a little complicated. You know, I gravitate to kind of like the simple, on-hand cardamom pods. Sorry about that. Here's one called the Radiant Blackberries, which are great right now. Half a peach, perfect right now. 2 ounces of blueberries, great. A handful of spinach, sure. Hit a quarter of a cup of pistachios, I like that. A cup of ice, 4 to 8 ounces coconut water, a tablespoon of honey. You see, I would love this smoothie right here. Blackberries and a peach, blueberries, a little spinach, some pistachios, ice, coconut water, and a tablespoon of honey. Good, healthy, yummy-ish. What else are they serving at the Rancho Valencia Resort and Spa? Simple shrimp tacos, ranch style. Guests at Rancho La Prairie, the original fitness resort in Tecate, can escape for the week-long retreat. Okay, I don't need to hear your story. What I need to know is how you're making this shrimp thing here. Take some clean shrimp, pound and a half, a clove of garlic that's been minced up. You want lime or lemon juice. You take Mexican oregano, teaspoon, salt, pepper, olive oil, and then warm tortillas. So this is great, right? So you take your shrimp, which have been peeled and deveined, and butterfly. They go in a ceramic or a glass bowl with all the other ingredients, that being some garlic and some lime and oregano, salt, pepper, and olive oil. Cover, refrigerate, and allow to marinate for an hour. Preheat, grill, and cook the shrimp for 1 or 2 minutes to side. I love that. It's so easy and so delicious. You can taste this. I can. Grilled shrimp, and if you don't have a grill, you're not working with a grill outside, you have a grill pan or a cast iron pan or even a saute pan, it doesn't matter, it's going to all be good. Sorry, let's just see what that means here. Okay, phone's just going to keep ringing, I'm not going to answer it. And then you take your warm tortillas. You warm your tortillas. I'll tell you how I warm mine. I have a fire on my gas range. I throw them on the fire for a couple seconds on each side. Take your grilled shrimp that are now kind of like limey and garlicky with oregano, just lovely and delicious. You put them inside these warm, soft tortillas, and then you top it with your favorite stuff. What's your favorite stuff? Could be a little cabbage, could be a little salsa, could be some white onion, could be some cilantro, could be your favorite whatever. And that's some really good eating. I think shrimp is easy, it's quick, it's underrated. It takes well to whatever flavors you want to give it. I'm a huge fan, and I love the idea of putting it in a warm tortilla, whether you happen to use corn or flour. And then you just, you can chop up some other stuff. I mean, a little cilantro is good in there, a handful of cheese, maybe some onion. Go for that right now. I'm feeling that right now. Now, speaking of salsa, I know that we're on breakfast and I segued to shrimp, but wait a second. There was something that, quick. I don't know if I should really do salsa. Yeah, let's talk about salsa. So, New York Times, author Martha Rose Shulman, she writes for the New York Times. She writes about a quick green tomatillo salsa. If you go to a Mexican restaurant and they come to the table and there's like a salsa, or maybe they have what they call the pico de gallo, and then they have like a green one. Yeah, the green one is usually the tomatillo salsa. Martha Rose Shulman, cooking, New York Times. She says, I make this tangy, versatile tomatillo salsa to accompany a range of Mexican and Tex-Mex dishes. All right, so if you're grilling up some shrimp real easy, and you want to dip it in something great, or just, put it inside a tortilla with some sauce. This is the sauce you want to make. She says, it's always great with shrimp and fish, and it's my go-to salsa for tacos, with chicken in the filling, and with vegetables like potatoes and green, summer squash, and corn. I roast the tomatillos under the broiler before blending them to get a deep, toasty flavor. And I'm going to tell you, folks, you can do that or not, but fine. Anytime you want to get more flavor on something, you roast it. Caramelization for the effect of kind of bringing out the natural sugars in the thing. Classic example, for example, a piece of toast. What was bread with fire becomes toast, and all of a sudden it's better. Why? Caramelization. Nuts. Raw is one thing. You take almonds and you toast them, all of a sudden you got a whole new product. So she roasts the tomatillo under the broiler. You can also roast the chilies if you want for a deeper roasted spicy flavor. And if you wish to roast the chilies with the tomatillos, place the whole chilies on the baking sheet too. They'll be done faster, only a minute or two on each side. Once they're cool enough to handle, peel and stem, coarsely chop. Proceed with the recipe. You ready for this? Heat the broiler. Put the rack on the highest heat. Cover a baking sheet with foil. Place tomatillos on top. 2 to 5 minutes until charred. Turn the tomatillos over and go 2 to 5 minutes until charred. Transfer the tomatillos to a blender, adding in any juice that may have accumulated on the foil. Next thing you know, you're adding in some chilies, jalapeno or serrano, 2 to 4. You're adding in some onions, like a quarter of a cup of chopped white or yellow onions. And if you want to take away the sting from the onions, you rinse them first after you cut them up. You soak them for 5 minutes in cold water, and then you drain them. There's a trick for you. You know how sometimes you have onions and you go, oh my God, I'm going to reek from onions? You don't have to. You have to cut the onion up, rinse it in some cold water for a couple of minutes, or soak it in cold water for 5 minutes, and then drain it and rinse it. So you've roasted or not your tomatillos, and you've added your onions and your garlic, 1 garlic clove, some cilantro, like a half a cup, and a quarter of a cup of water to a blender, and you blend it to a coarse puree. You put it in a bowl and you thin it out as desired with water. You taste and adjust salt. I would argue that you can also taste and adjust with some lime juice. And you set aside for 30 minutes, and then you allow the flavors to develop. And you have, my friends, a very simple but delicious green tomatillo salsa. I'm not selling here, but I will let you know that tomatillo salsa is one of the 100 recipes in the book, Short Order Dad, my cookbook. What did I put in mine? Let me see. Tomatillo salsa. I said a pound of fresh tomatillos, skins removed. Onion, garlic, olive oil, lime juice, jalapeno or serrano, cilantro. Yeah, same thing. Remove the papery coating from the outside. Rinse the tomatillos. So I'm not even roasting them in mine. You can. And then you put tomatillos, onion, garlic, oil, lime juice in a blender. I add in some peppers, which is to say your serranos or your jalapenos. You blend it until smooth. You let it stand. I love a tomatillo salsa. And it's so great on so many things, but particularly if you feel like grilling up some shrimp. I'm going to go back to breakfast here because Yotam Ottolenghi, one of the world's great and very famous chefs at this point, offers up a recipe, I'm going to say today, but it doesn't matter, it could be yesterday, braised eggs with zucchini, feta, and lemon. The guy does Israeli, Middle Eastern, and this is a celebration of zucchini, which is at its prime right now in the middle of the summer. Here's what he says. This dish is a celebration of zucchini, and it can be served any time of day, really, either on its own or with some good bread to dip into the runny yolks. Right? So he's got eggs that he's going to make with zucchini, feta cheese, and lemon. I mean, you see the picture of this, man. So if you look this up, your New York Times braised eggs with zucchini, feta, and lemon, it just looks so fantastic. And I love eggs, and braised sounds kind of weird when it comes to eggs, right? Like everybody has fried and everybody has scrambled and everybody has whatever, but the truth of the matter is over the last couple of years I've been enjoying that, what do you call that, that dish with the eggs and the tomato sauce. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, anyway, this looks so good. Although the zucchini blossoms make this look particularly bright and festive, the recipe would work fine without them, which is good to know. If your zucchini blossoms come with stems or small zucchini attached, simply slice them and slow cook them. All right, so he's talking about zucchini blossoms, the flowers that come on the zucchini. This is the time of year for those things. They're great if you ever had them. You ever had those zucchini blossoms? Generally, they're kind of stuffed with cheese and they're fried or sauteed. Oh my goodness, they're so unbelievable. I'm not even going to go through his kind of whole recipe, and I'll tell you why. Because my eyes begin to close down anytime I see more than 5 ingredients, and I'm looking at 10 or 11 here, right? I mean, lemon, oil, chili, peppers, zucchini, rainbow chard, you got chives, dill, feta, eggs. I prefer. And so if you're interested if you're one of those people that cooks and you don't mind having like a lot of ingredients, look up in the New York Times cooking section, braised eggs with zucchini, feta, and lemon, because it looks fantastic. But what I want to do with Yotam here is he says, in a different kind of story, he says, in an article entitled, "Let This Glorious Ingredient Simply Shine, when you get your hands on something as precious as zucchini blossoms, don't create too many distractions." Okay, so this is great, right? Because first of all, this is my belief in cooking. Get the best ingredients you can, don't mess them up too much. I want to get the most taste with the fewest ingredients and the least effort. So here Yotam is basically saying, if you get your hands on zucchini blossoms, also known as zucchini flowers, I think, you don't have to do a lot with them. Yotam says, "My father, who was born in Italy and left at the age of 5, never shook off the nation's famous minimalism in the kitchen. When I was growing up, he cooked zucchini blossoms for me by doing very little to them." Now he's talking my language, which is to say he lightly dipped them in beaten egg and Parmesan, and then shallow fried them in olive oil. That's it. This restraint is a beautiful thing. It creates a rich golden yellow when flour meets yolk, flour, Flower, and makes tender petals crisp up to the most satisfying crunch. There is a wonderful clarity to this way of cooking. It puts a glorious ingredient solely in the center, no distractions, but unfortunately it's not one that I've inherited from my father. My maximalist tendencies always get the better of me. Right, so that's why this is the guy who's giving you the 12, 13, 14, 15 ingredient recipe for braising your eggs with a lot of this stuff. But if you want to have some fun, and you see zucchini flowers at the market, grab them. And do what his dad says. Dip them in some egg and some Parmesan cheese and shallow fry them in some olive oil. You want to get crazy? Put a little cheese in them. What kind of cheese? Something melty. What kind of cheese you want to put? Feta, I suppose. Goat. I don't know. Pick your cheese. Something that's going to get a little soft when you fry it. But yeah, zucchini flowers, man. Glorious, delicious, beautiful, and only here for a very short time. I don't even know if they're still out there. I'm going to say that they are and hope that I'm right. What else is on the menu? I want to do the there's lamb, there's potato salad, lamb. I want to move over to the lamb thing here. Realize how time was kind of flying here. Melissa Clark, God bless, New York Times, grilled cumin lamb with spicy onions. Again, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it because as good as that looks, if my limit is 5 or 6 ingredients, she's got 5 or 6 too many for me. But lamb is glorious, and the way that I play it is I buy the leg of. Costco happens to sell it boneless, so I get it that way. And it's great on the grill. I mean, I suppose all you really need is salt and pepper. I would stab the lamb, and in the holes, fill them with little thin slices of garlic. And to be honest, it's kind of all you need. And then you grill the heck out of it, and I don't know. The thing about lamb is it's kind of uneven, even when it's kind of rolled up like that. So some of it's going to be all like nicely done, and some of it's going to be pink. Anyway, I don't want to get into how you want to cook it. I'm a medium rare guy, but lamb you can get away with cooking a little bit more. But anyway, lamb likes pepper. You need salt. Rosemary goes beautifully with it. Slices of garlic in the incisions that you make in the lamb. Great on a grill. Serve it with that green sauce we talked about before. Why not? I mean, seriously, why not? With that tomatillo, or maybe you want to make your own chimichurri, which is easy. I like the lamb a lot. I'll tell you what I do, though, that also works. I take a Dijon mustard and soy sauce in equal amounts, and I shake them up in like the Dijon, bottle, and then marinate or rub that lamb all over with the Dijon and soy. Hit it up with black pepper and throw that on the grill and just be happy. So good. Easy, inexpensive. There are people that find lamb too gamey. I don't invite those people over. Even if they come over, I'm telling you seriously, you give these people a piece of medium rare lamb that's been marinated in a little bit of soy and Dijon mustard, or you could go the other way. You could go this way here. You could go, oh, wait a second, I have soy and I have ginger and I have garlic, blah blah blah. You know what? No, my way. Or the highway, Dijon mustard, soy sauce, slices of garlic on the grill until it's perfect, which is to say pink on the inside. And what are you going to serve that with? And the answer is you're going to serve it with potatoes. The thing I would like to say about potatoes is the following. That lately, Costco's been selling the like small little potatoes that are both gold and red. I cut them in half. They're small, but I cut them in half, and I put the cut side down on a baking sheet on which I've slathered kind of olive oil. I hit it up with salt and pepper. I throw on some fresh rosemary. I stick it in the oven for 45 minutes at about 425 until it's like just look at it and you know it's perfect. Why? Because it's all super crispy on the outside, and yet the inside of the potato maintains that kind of soft potatoiness. It's perfect food. You want to see what it looks like? I literally just posted it today on Instagram. You go to Instagram, right, and you search for Short Order Dad. It's one word, Short Order Dad, and the first picture that you'll see from me are my roasted potatoes. Now, that said, I'm coming to the New York Post again for an article that was unbelievable. This is the same woman that wrote about rosé a week ago, Lauren Stuzzi, of the fabulous surf shirts. Still have my Stuzzi shirt from a decade ago. She writes an article last week. It's called "The Best Potato Salad Recipe from a Top Chef." Chef Brooke Headley's go-to side dish just might be the main event at your holiday cookout. He says, potato salad is often made by the person who can't cook, so it usually stinks. But if you cook the potatoes just right, season them, surround them with a creamy dressing studded with other vegetable texture, then you have a winner. I am not like a huge potato salad guy. I find it normally is just boring and leaden. But here's what this guy does, and I would eat his potato salad. You ready? 1 pound of russet potatoes. They're peeled and cut into 1-inch pieces. I need 2 tablespoons of salt. I'm going to take 2 tablespoons and a teaspoon of cane sugar. I need 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons of seasoned rice wine vinegar. Okay, so that's important. That's important because that vinegariness, right, that brightness as they call it, that acidity, in juxtaposition to the salt, the sugar, the creaminess of the forthcoming mayonnaise, that acidity makes all the difference in the world on your tongue. It lightens it. It makes it exciting. He puts an English cucumber in there that he's cut into small dice. He puts in 2 to 3 cups of green peas and doesn't care if they're fresh or frozen. He'll use 1.5 cups of mayonnaise and some fresh chervil and 2 scallions. So this is a great recipe. The creaminess of the mayonnaise, the crunchiness of the cucumber, the sweet accent of the green peas, the acidity of the vinegars, the freshness of the chervil. Chervil is one of the 4, what the French call fine herbs: fiends herbe, tarragon, chives, chervil, and parsley. Chervil is delicate and just a tad licorice-y, like that. You know what I mean? From same like a tarragon. It's like, oh God, it's just delicate and beautiful and lovely. And the scallions, of course, bring a little extra bite, color, crunch, the whole deal. Place the potatoes in a large pot, add the water, put in the salt, put in the sugar, add some white wine vinegar to the pot, bring it over boil. Once the liquid is boiling, reduce the heat, cook until the potatoes are tender, 10 minutes. Drain in the colander and immediately transfer to a baking sheet. Spread the potatoes in a single layer. Sprinkle the hot potatoes with the rice wine vinegar. Set aside to cool. Perfect. Meanwhile, in a large bowl, toss diced cucumbers and peas with the remaining teaspoon of sugar and a good pinch of salt. Add the cooled potatoes. Mix in the mayo, chervil, scallions, and a teaspoon of pepper. Serve cold and top with chopped chervil and freshly ground pepper. I want it. I want it now, and I want it aside some grilled lamb. This guy, the chef here, also makes a chickpea mayo. I think this is like a vegan thing. And I like that he's using the canned chickpeas. So he says combine the chickpea liquid, the chickpeas, mustard, cider vinegar, sugar, and salt in a blender. Blend at high speed. Blender is running slowly. Drizzle in grapeseed oil. So he's basically making an emulsion using oil, using all the ingredients that you would for a mayonnaise, except he's substituting in, chickpeas for basically, kind of an egg yolk. Chickpea liquid, Dijon, some cider vinegar, cane sugar, salt, and your grapeseed oil. And you could use that instead of mayo. I like it. I like it a lot. let's see, playing with your food, what about your child, French potato. Here's another thing. I mean, again, so you could do this. There's a recipe also from David Tanis on, again, New York Times, French potato and green bean salad. Again, the problem with this is my eyes glaze over. I like the concept, right? You got potatoes, you got you got French beans, and he's going to put in some, arugula in there. But the problem is he's also, it's great. It looks great if somebody else is making it. He's got chives and parsley and basil, anchovy, white wine vinegar, Dijon virgin, capers and garlic and sprig and bay, and it's just too much for me. Great looking salad, too many ingredients, not making it. My potatoes, roasted, or this guy's potato salad recipe, those are easy and fantastic, and that's the way you want to cook in the summer, right? Most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort. Playing with your food, history of s'mores, Chinese-style rib. Hang on a second, let's see what else we want to talk about here. Perfect avocado. I do want to get to the avocado thing here, because here I was saying Melissa Clark before has already submitted a couple of recipes that I read here that had too much going on, and yet here she writes about what to do with a perfect avocado. Not too mushy, not too hard, slices beautifully. When you find a great avocado, celebrate your good fortune. I'm going along with that. I love the avocado. I love the creaminess of it. It's actually, even though it's a relatively high, fat content, this is a healthy fat. I don't ever feel bad eating this. I love making guacamole. Again, if you don't have a recipe for it, you simply go, to the Shorter Dad cookbook. But, guacamole is not complicated. Anyway, she says a perfect avocado. Melissa says a perfect avocado is a lucky find. Neither granite hard nor squishably soft. It should yield slightly when pressed, maintain its integrity when sliced, and feel like butter on the tongue when eaten. Very good. Sadly, most of the avocados I bring home fall short in all kinds of fibrous, mushy, black speckled ways. The mediocre ones get trimmed to salvage the good parts. They smashed into guacamole, but when I do get the good ones, I like to show them off. Sliced into crescents and fanned out on a plate, they become the heart of a stunningly simple, elegant salad. Long story short, Melissa here is making an avocado salad with herbs and capers. What does she put in this thing? Keep it simple, Melissa. What do you got in this thing? Cilantro, parsley, scallions, jalapeno, garlic, sea salt, red wine, olive, avocados, and capers. There's nothing wrong with that, I suppose. Reserve a cup of cilantro leaves, chop the rest of the leaves, transfer the chopped leaves to a bowl. Parsley leaves, starting to get complicated for me. It's scallions, jalapeno, garlic, salt, and vinegar. All right, so here's the situation. The point of this is that if you have a good avocado, it forms the basis of a good salad. I'm not going to argue with that. The truth of the matter is that you can do this. You can do vinegar and oil. You could throw some capers on there. You could put some cilantro on there. There's nothing wrong with that. It does remind me, and I don't mean to be referring to it consistently, but it's true. In addition to the guacamole recipe that I have in my book, Shorter to Dead cookbook, I also put in a salad. But my salad was literally simpler than this, in that it was sliced avocado set next to sliced pieces of grapefruit, and I made essentially what was, if I'm not mistaken, kind of like a grapefruit vinaigrette. So what are you using? Grapefruit juice, some oil. But think about it, right? You get this creamy, buttery, ripe, smooth avocado, and you have it set against sections, perfect sections of pink grapefruit. That's kind of, juicy and like bittersweet, and probably doesn't even need dressing, but a little vinaigrette that's been spiked with the grapefruit juice. That's good, man. Good. I'm going to segue over to scallops. Where is that? Let this glorious ingredient. No, that's not it. Here we go. Doing my reading the article thing here. When is this article from? New York Times. David Tannis, July 13th. So today is the 18th. Here's the article. A simple treatment for stunning scallops. Pan, seared, or grilled, these sea scallops make for a show-stopping summer centerpiece with a corn salsa served alongside. Scallops are underrated, underappreciated, but you got to get good scallops, and not all scallops are good, because left to their own kind of devices, the people that will sell and distribute them often do stuff to them before it gets to you that's not good. But when you get a good scallop, it's a thing of beauty. I mean, even raw. I don't think. I mean, I like raw food. I'm talking about clams. I'm talking about oysters, even beef. But for 10 years or so in a row, I ended up in the middle of the summer in Portland, Maine. Easily one of the great, maybe the best kind of small city restaurant dining scene in America. And there's a place on the water, on the ocean. It's on the ocean, on the dock, really, out there, an oyster bar, and it's called Jay's. I love the place. I love the place because I would go every year for 10 years to Jay's Oyster Bar. Loved it. It was just so real. And you were, it's one of those places where in the middle of the summer, you're half people like me coming from 700 miles away, and the other half local, kind of like blue collar-y. I mean, it was just great. But that's besides the point. Yeah, they're shucking clams in there, they're shucking oysters in there, you're having a martini, and you sit down, and one of the things on the menu is scallops. And they serve them raw. And they serve them raw. 3 of them come to an order. You go now, those 3 scallops will cost you $11. I think when I went, it was probably closer to 7, 8, 9. Doesn't matter. Maybe the greatest raw food I ever had. I mean, I suppose you could make a case that, I don't know. There's great oysters, like I said. But I mean, raw scallops. What was amazing about them, aside from their kind of natural sweetness and the salinity and the whole deal, that you took a slice of it and you put it into your mouth, and you got the sensation that it was melting in your mouth. Didn't really need anything. I mean, I suppose you could give it a squeeze of lemon. You could drop it into a little bit of cocktail sauce. That was one of the great pleasures. Raw scallops, with a proper martini. Raw. Didn't have to mess with it. You ever see scallop shells? They're so beautiful, and get them like fresh, and sometimes you get them with the roe, and that's good too. And I thought to myself as I was eating 3 scallops, let's call it $10. Those same 3 scallops at a sushi bar in New York would probably be closer to like $30, honestly. Right? Because that's what they would do. They would take one, they would break it into 2 pieces, they would serve it to you for $10. Beautiful food. Anyway, Tannis writes in the Times about grilling them. And what does he say? The trick here is to grill them long enough on the first side, let them brown and crisp well, otherwise they'll stick. 3 to 5 minutes is what you're grilling them on one side, he says, because you want them to be golden and burnished on top. Again, coincidentally, your short order dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. I put in a recipe that I learned in cooking school for scallops Provençal, where you get the best scallops you can, and all you really need, again, when I cook, is you need some olive oil, a garlic clove or 2, some tomato, and, a little bit of thyme. Basil. How many ingredients we're talking about? Scallop. Okay. Olive oil in the pan, or butter, or some combination thereof. Your scallops, that's 2. Garlic is 3. Tomato is 4. Basil, 5. And thyme or tarragon, 6. Delicious food. Easy to make. Clean, healthy, awesome. And to drink, both grilled sea scallops have an inherent sweetness, which goes exceedingly well with Chardonnay. How about a fine white Burgundy like a Merceau, or an up-and-coming Chardonnay from Oregon? Anyway, have it with champagne. Have it with rosé. But in any case, have it, my friends. Have at it. People aren't cooking anymore. I think I've told you that before. All the data is that we talk about food, we watch food, we think about it, we look at it, we read about it, but we're going out to eat it or ordering it in. I'm here to tell you that you need to cook it. And summertime is as good as any time, because the ingredients that are coming up out of the ground and out of the sea right now are at their damn peak. Your tomatoes, your scallops, your corn. The other stuff you can get all year long, but it's still good. Nice piece of lamb, some avocado, potatoes that you can either roast or put in this great potato salad. Well, that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Podcast number 20 of All You Can Eat. I hope that you were able to take away from this a certain amount of deliciousness, a taste appeal, an appreciation for simple and great and delicious recipes that you too can make. And I am here to tell you that life is short, so whatever you do, never waste a meal. I'm Robert Rosenthal. This is All You Can Eat. I will be back with you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, my friends, life is short. Never wait.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on